Leaked images from inside the Ferrari garage have forced the FIA to launch a full-scale investigation into Lewis Hamilton's Qatar car, and what these photographs reveal changes everything about his disastrous race. The evidence shows a structural flaw so severe that it explains the sudden loss of downforce, the violent snapping on exits, and the complete lack of grip that turned Hamilton's weekend into one of the worst of his career. The FIA now believes this flaw may have been present before the race even began, meaning Hamilton drove the entire Grand Prix with a car that was aerodynamically broken at its core. You need to hear the full truth behind this investigation, and before we continue, make sure you subscribe right now so you never miss the information Formula One teams never want you to know. Ferrari entered the Qatar Grand Prix knowing the SF25 had difficulties in fast corners, yet they did not anticipate the scale of structural failure that emerged during the race. The leaked garage images examined by the FIA show a millimetric disconnect between the floor and the rear suspension assembly, a separation that directly compromises aerodynamic load generation. Hamilton described the car as unpredictable on every entry and exit, and now the evidence confirms that the aerodynamic platform beneath him was collapsing under load through the medium and high-speed sections of Lusail. From the first laps, Hamilton could not keep the car stable. Starting 17th after Ferrari broke park firm to attempt a late setup rescue, he immediately fought a car that refused to generate front grip and could not hold rear stability. His own words reflect the struggle clearly, as he described the experience as a fight simply to avoid spinning. These symptoms match the aerodynamic misalignment shown in the leaked photographs. The airflow beneath the car broke down repeatedly, generating sudden shifts in stability that left Hamilton unable to trust the car. The radio messages reveal a driver wrestling with a machine that no longer behaved consistently from corner to corner. At mid-distance, Hamilton admitted the rear was going everywhere, and he questioned how the setup changes had made the situation worse. The FIA analysis matches this experience, noting that the car suffered unpredictable load drops through the fastest zones. When Hamilton crossed the line in 12th place, he summarized the situation bluntly, saying there was simply no speed. Ferrari's pace comparison during the race exposed the scale of the failure. The SF25 was between 0.8 and more than 1 second slower per lap than McLaren and Red Bull, and even Alpine and Williams outperformed them on raw pace. These numbers are not the result of strategy or tire decisions. They reflect a fundamental aerodynamic collapse. The FIA highlighted that both Hamilton and Leclerc suffered identical symptoms, proving the cause was structural rather than driver-specific. Leclerc's own radio messages added weight to the investigation. He shouted that there was zero grip and described the experience as embarrassing, expressing frustration that the car could not even hold pace with the midfield. The FIA reviewed these messages and noted that they align completely with the aerodynamic failure seen in the leaked images. When two drivers with different styles provide identical feedback, the issue is structural rather than behavioral. Hamilton attempted to adjust his lines and braking points, yet the car remained unwilling to stabilize. The severe bouncing under braking into turn 10 confirmed to the FIA that the aerodynamic load was breaking down aggressively. This behavior resembled the porpoising that plagued Formula One in 2022, and it left the driver without the confidence needed to attack or defend. Ferrari confirmed this pattern in their analysis, acknowledging that the rear instability made the car impossible to drive consistently. The situation worsened when tire behavior deteriorated. The SF25 cannot hold tire temperatures inside their ideal range due to unstable aerodynamic load. When downforce disappears mid-corner, the tires slide, heating the surface while cooling internally. This mismatch destroys mechanical grip. Ferrari saw this in both cars and included it in their internal report. By the end of the race, Hamilton had endured a full hour of instability, culminating in a finish that confirmed Ferrari's structural crisis. The central problem began before the lights went out. Ferrari's park firm breach on Saturday was the first clear sign that the team faced an issue deeper than strategy or balance. Breaking park firm is a last resort, and it revealed that the engineers suspected a structural anomaly. The leaked images later confirmed that suspicion by showing the millimetric separation in the floor structure. This tiny but crucial misalignment set the stage for the aerodynamic collapse that unfolded in the race. On track, Hamilton immediately felt the consequences. Without front grip, the car hesitated to rotate, and without rear stability, it snapped violently on exit. This combination is the worst scenario for any driver and especially damaging on a circuit like Lusail that demands a stable aerodynamic platform. The FIA highlighted these symptoms as classic signs of an underfloor structural failure, where airflow detaches mid-corner and generates violent instability. Ferrari could adjust setup values, but no setup can compensate for a broken aerodynamic base. The tire performance further exposed the problem. Tires rely on consistent aerodynamic load to maintain their internal temperature. When the load breaks down, the tires begin to slide, destroying their core temperature and reducing grip even more. Hamilton and Leclerc both reported an absence of grip throughout the race. The FIA reviewed this and marked it as an expected consequence of the structural flaw in the floor. Ferrari's inability to close the pace gap became a defining crisis. A deficit of nearly 1 second per lap meant there was no strategic path to recovery. The team could not rely on tire offset, track position, or alternate strategy. Hamilton's race became damage limitation, and even then the car lacked the stability required to move through the field. The FIA concluded that Ferrari was competing with a car fundamentally incapable of producing competitive load. Leclerc's feedback strengthened the case. His remarks about zero grip and the car being embarrassingly slow confirmed that Hamilton's experience was not an isolated incident. When two cars show identical failures, the problem lies within the design or structural integrity of the car rather than setup or driver preference. Ferrari acknowledged this in their internal debrief, recognizing that both cars suffered the same aerodynamic deficiencies. Hamilton's frustration reached a peak when he admitted that the car felt in the wrong direction and that there was no stability at the rear. These comments reflect the breakdown shown in the leaked images. A car without rear stability cannot maintain confidence at any corner speed, and the FIA highlighted this complaint as evidence that the floor and suspension assembly were not functioning correctly. By the final laps, the situation had become unsalvageable. Ferrari ended the race outside the points with both cars, proving that the internal structural crisis outweighed any individual performance issue. The FIA now considers Qatar the moment the SF25's design flaws became undeniable. The leaked images gave them the foundation to open a full investigation into Ferrari's aerodynamic integrity. Ferrari's engineering group entered Qatar believing that the SF25 would at least hold a stable aerodynamic platform through the high-speed corners, yet the leaked images forced them to face a far tougher reality. The structural separation between the floor and the rear suspension assembly introduced a mechanical distortion that no setup adjustment could mask. Once the car hit full lateral load, the floor shifted outside its ideal pressure range, breaking the airflow that normally generates consistent downforce. Engineers rely on predictable aerodynamic mapping to anchor every decision they make, and here that map collapsed. The FIA analysis concluded that this single mechanical deviation created a chain reaction that undermined every system connected to the aerodynamic base. From the moment Hamilton began the race, the engineering team saw irregularities in the telemetry that indicated the rear of the car was losing load unpredictably. The yaw traces revealed sudden drops in rotational stability as the car transitioned through the fast bends, which is the hallmark of an aero platform losing pressure. Engineers attempted to stabilize the behavior through differential adjustments and small shifts in mechanical balance, yet each change produced inconsistent responses. The issue was not balance but aerodynamic collapse, and that distinction is critical. Balance can be tuned, but collapse is structural and cannot be corrected within the parameters available during a race weekend. As the laps continued, the rear ride height became another red flag. A car that oscillates between slightly higher and slightly lower ride positions at high speed cannot maintain the tightly controlled airflow that modern floors require. Ferrari engineers monitored this through the suspension load sensors and found that the floor deflection pattern did not match the expected model. The FIA noted that this mismatch corresponded exactly with Hamilton's complaints of the rear of the car losing support without warning. This behavior did not merely slow the car. It made it fundamentally unstable, forcing Hamilton into a constant defensive driving posture. The energy recovery system therefore became an indirect victim of the aerodynamic failure. Hybrid recovery depends on braking stability to allow consistent harvesting of energy, but Hamilton could not break through turn 10 or into the final corners with confidence. Each time the rear stepped out, the recovery cycle broke, producing inconsistent energy distribution on exit. Ferrari engineers tried adjusting the harvesting profile to compensate, but this cooled the brakes further and aggravated the tire temperature imbalance. The FIA included these observations in its preliminary notes, identifying the hybrid instability as a secondary consequence of the structural flaw. Tire behavior further exposed the scale of the engineering challenge. Tires require a stable aerodynamic envelope to maintain heat in both the surface and the core. When the floor loses pressure and causes sliding, the surface overheats while the core cools, creating a mismatch that destroys available grip. Ferrari's engineers tracked this through internal temperature deltas and found that the SF25 never achieved equilibrium across any stint. This is why Hamilton repeatedly described the car as offering no grip and no stability. The tires were not failing on their own. They were reacting to the broken aerodynamic conditions created by the structural shift revealed in the leaked images. As Ferrari attempted to salvage the situation, they revised fuel targets and engine mode profiles to reduce load on the unstable rear end. These adjustments limited the severity of the instability but guaranteed a permanent loss of pace. Hamilton's sector times reflected this compromise. He could no longer attack the high-speed corners nor defend against cars with far less inherent performance. The FIA emphasized that even teams like Alpine and Williams, normally far behind Ferrari, recorded faster cornering speeds, proving how severely the SF25 had degraded under structural stress. By the final laps, Ferrari engineers shifted from performance recovery to mechanical survival. They advised Hamilton to avoid aggressive curb usage, protect the rear structure, and minimize lateral spikes that might worsen the misalignment. The FIA confirmed this shift in approach through the radio messages, which showed Ferrari prioritizing structural protection rather than competitive racing. This is the clearest indication that the engineering staff believed the floor separation posed a significant risk. The investigation now focuses on whether this failure originated from accumulated wear, production variance, or a fundamental weakness in the car's architecture. For the FIA, Qatar is not merely a poor performance, is evidence of an engineering system pushed past its structural limits.